Welcome back, everyone. So, in the previous segment, I spoke about the passage comprehension. I spoke about a few tips how to approach these passage comprehensions. I also spoke about the approaches that you need to adopt. It could be a passage first and question next, or it could be a question first and passage next. I also helped you identify certain keywords in the passage to identify what tone the author is picking. So, that will help you. These methodologies and these approaches will help you identify the correct answer whenever you have these kind of questions. So, now I am going to show you few examples, or rather few samples. We will solve these passage comprehension questions together. All right. So, here is the first one. Let us have this on the screen. Laws of nature are not commands by statement of acts. The use of word law in the context is rather unfortunate. It would be better to speak of uniformities in nature. This would do away with the elementary fallacy that a law implies a lawgiver. If a piece of matter does not obey a law of nature, it is punished. On the contrary, we say that the law has been incorrectly stated. Basically, what it means is, in nature there is a uniform law and this law applies to everybody. If somebody does not obey the law, of course the person or the element is punished. Usually it's stated that the law is not justified. Say for example, you're going by the road and you break the traffic rule. The rule says if it's a red light, you're not supposed to move, but some people violate and they move forward. In case if a traffic cop catches hold of a person, that person says, I am not the only one, there are other people also who broke the rule. Catch them as well, because the law is not justified to me. Or the person says, I am going to the hospital, I am in an emergency, that's why I did that. The law is not considering my situation. But the fact of the matter is, the law is uniform. It does not have these exceptions. So, when it comes to nature as well, the same thing applies. Let us read the passage again to understand this particular context. All right. Here is the passage. Law of nature are not commands by statement of acts. The use of the word law in the context is rather unfortunate. It would be better to speak of uniformities in nature. This would do away with the elementary of fallacy that a law implies a lawgiver, which means a lawmaker or the lawgiver is prominent, but that is not the fact. If a piece of matter does not obey a law of nature, it is punished. On the contrary, we say that the law has been incorrectly stated. Okay? So, I gave you example to explain what the passage means. Now, let us look at these questions. This is the first one. If a piece of matter violates nature's law, it is not punished because it is not binding to obey it. There is no superior being to enforce the law of nature. It cannot be punished. It simply means that the facts have not been correctly stated by law. Read this question stem marked in red and then look at the options and identify. If a piece of matter violates nature's law, it is not punished because it is not binding to obey it. There is no superior being to enforce the law of nature. It cannot be punished. It simply means that the facts have not been correctly stated by the law. And the correct answer is option B. There is no superior being to enforce the law of nature, which means everything is uniform. Let's look at the next question. Law of nature differ from man-made laws because the former state facts of nature. Now, the word former is different. Let me give you an example. If I have this sentence, The former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, was universally respected. Here means, former means in the past. For example, the ex-president, I can just replace that. But if I write a sentence, so here I am mentioning two different elements, Apple and Samsung. Both Apple and Samsung phones are popular in India. The former is more expensive than the latter. Former means what? Between these two elements, former means Apple, latter means Samsung. There is another word which is later, so don't get confused between latter and later. So wherever there is a former, there is always a latter. So in this particular question, law of nature differ from man-made law, which means there is nature law and there is man-made law. So when it says the former states facts of nature, former means the first one, which is law of nature. The former state facts of nature, they must be obeyed, they are natural. Unlike human laws, they are systematic. Read the question again. Law of nature differ from man-made law because the former state facts of nature, they must be obeyed, they are natural. Unlike human laws, they are systematic. Please make a note of this question and the options. I will show you the passage again so that you can identify what is the correct answer. All right, I hope you have taken down the question and the options. Please make a note of this. All right, here is the passage. Please read, understand and identify what is the correct answer. You would find the answer somewhere in this passage, of course. Now let's look at the question again. The law of nature differ from man-made laws because the former state facts of nature, they must be obeyed, they are natural. Unlike human laws, they are systematic. And the correct answer is, of course, the first one, the former states fact of nature. Next, the law of nature based on observation are conclusion about the nature of the universe, true and unfalsifiable, figments of observer imagination, subject to change in the light of new facts. The laws of nature based on observation are conclusion about the nature of universe, true and unfalsifiable, figments of observer imagination, subject to change in the light of new facts. And the correct answer is the last one, subject to change in the light of new facts. Whenever there is a new fact, it takes a different shape, different form, it changes. Last one, the author is not happy with the word law because it connotes rigidity and harshness. It implies an agency which has made them. It does not convey the sense of nature's uniformity. It gives rise to false beliefs. The author is not happy with the word law because it connotes rigidity and harshness. It implies an agency which has made them. It does not convey the sense of nature's uniformity. It gives rise to false beliefs. I'm going to go back to the passage to help you find out what is the correct answer. All right, let's look at the answer now. It connotes rigidity and harshness because he means to say it's not flexible at all. Let's look at the next paragraph. This is a slightly bigger paragraph. I'm going to read it slow so that you understand. At this stage of civilization, when many nations are brought into close and vital contact for good and evil, it is essential as never before that the gross ignorance of one another should be diminished, that they should begin to understand a little of one another's historical experience and resulting mentality. It is the fault of the English to expect the people of other countries to react as they do to political and international situations. Our genuine goodwill and good intentions are often brought to nothing because we expect other people to be like us. This would be corrected if we knew the history, not necessarily in detail, but in broad outlines of the social and political conditions which have given to each nation its present character. I am going to read this again slowly. Please make a note of this particular passage. At this stage of civilization, when many nations are brought into close and vital contact for good and evil, it is essential as never before that the gross ignorance of one another should be diminished, that they begin to understand a little of one another's historical experience and resulting mentality. It is the fault of the English to expect the people of other countries to react as they do to political and international situations. Our genuine goodwill and good intentions are often brought to nothing because we expect other people to be like us. This would be corrected if we knew the history, not necessarily in detail, but in broad outlines of the social and political conditions which have given to each nation its present character. What this paragraph basically means is the universal situation today. It basically means there are a lot of countries which has a very different culture, different character and different behavior, the way we perceive it. So every country has its own problems and own goodness, right? It says English means here it means the people of England. It says people of England, they usually assume that everybody should think like them the way they look at other countries, but it's always not possible. And it also goes to say, even though the intentions are good, we want to do something good for other countries or other countries want to do good for us, but usually it gets ignored because we look at other aspects as well. Okay? So that is what this paragraph is all about. I'm going to show you the paragraph once again so that you can make a note of the key words, then I will move on to the question. Let's have the paragraph please. There you go. Please make a note of the important points. Here is the first question. According to the author, the mentality of a nation is mainly product of its history, international position, politics, present character. According to the author, the mentality of nation is mainly product of its history, international position, politics, present character. I'm going to go back to the passage so that you can find out what the answer is. You see the word mentality here. Read this entire sentence. All right, let's go back to the question. And the correct answer is history. According to the author, the mentality of a nation is mainly product of its history. Question number 2. The need for greater understanding between nations was always there, is no longer there, is more today than ever before, will always be there. The need for greater understanding between nations was always there, is no longer there, is more today than ever before, or option D, will always be there. Again, let's look at the paragraph. All right, let's go back to the question. The need for greater understanding between nations was always there, is no longer there, is more today than ever before, will always be there. And the correct answer is more today than ever before, because countries are more aware what's going on. Next question. The character of a nation is the result of its mentality, cultural heritage, gross ignorance, socio-political conditions. The earlier question was the mentality. Here it's a character. The character of a nation is the result of its mentality, cultural heritage, gross ignorance, or socio-political conditions. Let me show you the passage again. Let's go back to the question. And the correct answer is socio-political conditions. The character of the nation is a result of its socio-political conditions. Next question. According to the author, his countrymen should read the story of other nations, have a better understanding of other nations, not react to other actions, have vital contacts with other nations. According to the author, his countrymen should read the story of other nations, have a better understanding of other nations, not react to other actions, have vital contacts with other nations. And the correct answer is have better understanding. Englishmen, like others, do react to political situation like us, themselves, others, each others. Englishmen means people in England. Englishmen, like others, do react to political situation like us, themselves, others, each others. And the correct answer is themselves. They behave like themselves. They have a particular point of view. All right. Here we go with the next passage. I'm going to read this slow so that you understand. Today, perhaps your only association with the word polio is the Sabin oral vaccine that protects children from the disease. 55 years ago, this was not so. The dreaded disease, which mainly affects the brain and spinal cord, causing stiffening and weakening of muscles, crippling and paralysis, which is why I am in the wheelchair today. If somebody had predicted when I was born that this would happen to me, no one would have believed it. I was seventh child in a family of 4 pairs of brothers and sisters with a huge 23-year gap between the first and the last. I was so fair and brown-haired that I looked more like a foreigner than a Dawood Bohri. I was also considered to be the healthiest of the brood. Please make a note of this passage or just make a note of this important information. For example, polio, Sabin oral vaccine, the number of years, what does it affect, what does polio affect, what was predicted or rather not predicted, and he being the 7th child. Now, it's a first person account, which means the person's name, the author's name is Dawood Bohri. How many brothers and sisters he had and what is the age gap? How did he look? Fair and brown haired that looked more like a foreigner. And he was the healthiest. So, all this information is the key information for you in this passage. All right. Let's look at the first question. In his childhood, the narrator was a weakling, very healthy, tall and slim, short and stout. In his childhood, the narrator was a weakling, very healthy, tall and slim, short and stout. Let's go back. Look at the last part of the paragraph, you will find your answer. All right. So, in his childhood, the narrator was very healthy. Later on, there was an onset of polio. Next question. In this passage, the word brood refers to polio victims, foreign children, children in the family, Indian children. In this passage, the word brood refers to polio victims, foreign children, children in the family, Indian children. So, let's look at the last paragraph. I was considered to be the healthiest of the brood. That means he is comparing himself with all his siblings. So, which means the correct answer is option C, children in the family. The narrator was a 7th child in a family of 8 children, 16 children, 23 children and 4 children. The narrator was a 7th child in the family of 8, 16, 23, 4. Now, let's go back to the paragraph. I was a 7th child in a family of 4 pairs of brothers and sisters. Each pair has 2, 4 pair means 4 into 2, 8 children. So, he was the 7th one. In this passage, the narrator is a patient of very easy, heart disease, polio, paralysis, nervous weakness. And the correct answer is polio. The last one. In his childhood, the narrator looked more like a foreigner than a Dawood Bohri. This was because he was a foreign child, he was a very healthy boy, he was tall and smart, he was fair and brown haired. If you remember, this was in the last line of the paragraph, or rather the last or the second last sentence. Read here, I was fair and brown haired. So, the correct answer is fair and brown haired. All right. One more paragraph. The strength of the electronics industry in Japan is the Japanese ability to organize production and marketing rather than their achievements in original research. which means they spend less effort on original research, they spend more money, more energy, and there is more effort in terms of marketing. The British are generally recognized as far more inventive collection of individuals, but never seem able to exploit what they invent, which means the British are more innovative, Japanese are good in marketing. Just because British are not good in marketing, they could not really exploit what they invented, or rather market what they invented. There are many examples from the TSRZ hovercraft, high-speed train, Sinclair scooters to the Triumph, BSA, Norton motorcycle, which all prove this sad rule, which means all of these are British brands. They are much better in terms of technology and invention, but they were not popular. The Japanese were able to exploit their strengths in marketing and development many years ago, and the success was at first either not understood in the West or was dismissed as something which could have been produced only at their low price. They were sold because they were cheap copies of other people's ideas churned out of workhouse, which were dedicated to hard grind above all else, which means the products manufactured by Japanese were cheaper, they spent more effort in terms of marketing, that is why they were selling more and they were more popular. But people did not understand, they felt that Japanese products are lower in terms of quality, in terms of low cost of production. So, let me go back to the passage, please make a note of the important points. All right, here is the first question. It is evident from the passage that the strength of country's industry depends upon original research, international cooperation, dedicated workforce, electronic development. I repeat, it is evident from the passage that the strength of a country's industry depends on original research, international cooperation, dedicated workforce, electronic development. And the correct answer is dedicated workforce. The next question, the sad rule mentioned in this passage refers to the inability of Japanese to be inventive like the British, the inability of the British to be industrious like the Japanese, the lack of variety in Japanese inventions, the poorer marketing ability of the British. I also explain what the passage means. This should be easy to solve. The sad rule mentioned in the passage refers to the inability of the Japanese to be inventive like the British, the inability of the British to be industrious like Japanese, the lack of variety in Japanese inventions, the poorer marketing ability of the British. And the correct answer is British being not good in terms of the marketing capability. The TSRZ hovercraft, high-speed train, Sinclair scooters, etc. are the symbols of Japanese success, British failure, British success, Japanese failure. A little tricky question, so please read, understand and then respond. The TSRZ hovercraft, high-speed train, Sinclair scooters are etc. are the symbols of Japanese success, British failure, British success, Japanese failure. And the correct answer is British failure, even though the innovation was great, but it was not marketed properly. According to the passage, prosperity in industry depends upon productivity, inventiveness, marketing ability, official patronage. According to the passage, prosperity in industry depends upon productivity, inventiveness, marketing ability, official patronage. And the correct answer is marketing ability, because it's comparing the marketing ability of Japanese with the British. The main theme of this passage is electronic industry in Japan, industrial comparison between Japan and Britain, the role of marketing efficiency in industrial prosperity, the importance of original research in industry. The main theme of the passage is electronic industry in Japan, industrial comparison between Japan and Britain, the role of marketing efficiency in industrial prosperity, and the importance of original research in industry. And the correct answer is the role of marketing efficiency in industrial prosperity. All right. I am going to go to a smaller passage so that we can solve it. All right, here we go. Soft-bodied animals like caterpillars often fall prey to voracious hunters like birds or reptiles. Despite having no means to actively defend themselves with weapons like claws or jaws, they have nevertheless evolved other equally effective deterrents. A particular species of the caterpillar lives at an altitude of 2500 meters in the Himalayas. It uses prominent color to inform would-be predator of its inedibility. In the event that an inexperienced or adventurous bird did eat the caterpillar, it would probably vomit it soon after and subsequently desist from attacking similar species in future. Though this would do the unfortunate victim no good, the species benefit. A rare example of the martyr among animals. It basically talks about how caterpillars are non-vertebrate animals. They do not have a spinal cord, they are soft, and they live in very high altitude. Some of these insects do not have the claws or jaws. What do we mean by claw? Long nails like tigers, or jaws, very strong teeth, so that they can bite into the prey. So it means to say, when you have these kind of soft-bodied animals, they do not have any mechanism to protect themselves when they get attacked. So due to evolution, they have grown a very different technique to protect themselves. So one such example is a caterpillar which lives in 2500 altitude of 2500 feet in meters in Himalayas. So what it does, when it gets attacked, it emits a very foul fluid. So what it does, when any bird or any rodent attacks, it dies. It's like poison. But when the next bird or rodent tries to attack, it knows that I cannot attack these kind of caterpillars because it will do harm to me. Okay? So let's look at the questions now. Here is question number 1 for you. The expression other equally effective deterrents mean preventive weapons which are equal effect of others, mechanism which scares everyone equally well, preventive equipment which it is as effective as something that has been already mentioned in the passage, the deterrents that are as useful as those are caterpillars. And the correct answer is B, mechanism which scares everyone equally well. Next, experienced birds do not attack the Himalayan caterpillar because they are repulsive, aggressive, inedible, diseased. Inedible means you cannot eat them. So that's the correct answer. The Himalayan caterpillar uses prominent colors to warn the predator, attack the predator, reveal itself, defend itself. So is it attacking? No, it's not attacking, it's only warning the predator. Caterpillars cannot defend themselves because they are passive animals, they are lazy, they cannot acquire weapons, they have no claws or jaws. I explained this example, so you know the answer. they do not have any kind of claws or jaws. The last one, in this context of this passage, a martyr is one who dies without putting up resistance, without any gain to oneself, while defending one's homeland to save others. So, martyr in this particular context is to save others. So, the caterpillar dies, but the species survive, because if any bird or rodent is trying to attack, they know that this species you cannot eat them, so let us not eat. But the first caterpillar is already dead, so it is dying to save others. Okay. So, I hope this was helpful. Please post your questions on the comment box. In the next slot, I will take up some more examples. All right. So, I will see you in a while. Thank you.